Well, here's some numbers for you. The total number of New Zealand Defence Force personnel, including reservists, is 14,734. Of these, around 400 are deployed at any given time in a range of peace support and other operations around the world, including Timor-Leste and Afghanistan. That's say around 30,000 mums and dads with sons and daughters in the force and 400 families with whānau involved in activity overseas. So what is it like for family to have whānau away, and what is it like being away from home? With me now is a couple who know all about it. Major Oliver Te Ua. He volunteers as service to the Defence Force, and he's joined by his wife, Whetu, who stirs the home fires while he's away. Kia ora to you both, and welcome to the show.
Kia ora, Shane. Thank you.
Ollie, how long have you served?
I've been in the Army for 17 years, Shane.
So you're a reservist, which means basically?
A reserve soldier in the Territorial Force. I have a full-time job at the moment, employed by Hamilton City Council, and in weekends and at nights and sometimes weeks away, we'll go and deploy with the Army.
So 17 years, you put your hand up back then, didn't you, to volunteer your services? Why was that?
Shane, long, I guess like many New Zealand families, a long history of various generations serving in different contexts, and I'm quite keen to do service in this form.
So the most recent conflict that you were at, it was in Afghanistan. Why were you there?
I deployed to Afghanistan, to Kabul, to the headquarters of the International Security Assistance Force. So it's a New Zealand Defence Force position. I guess I'd been in the Army for a number of years since my last deployment in 2002. The unit that I was, the sub-unit I was commanding at the time, around 25% of the guys who had ever gone overseas were gearing up to go to the Solomons and East Timor. So I thought, from credibility-wise and to demonstrate leadership, it was time that I went overseas again as well. And I had a colleague who had deployed in the position the year before, and he would keep me informed of the role. I thought it was sounded quite exciting, and so I volunteered for that particular posting.
So what were you doing there?
I was deployed to the headquarters there in the Stability Division, leading a team heading up subnational governance.
Which is basically what?
Yeah, basically any governance outside of Kabul. So I guess there are three main pillars that we were working on. It was security, governance and development. Obviously, the security side is very important, but in order to get some long-term sustainability in Afghanistan, building the capacity of the government outside of Kabul to provide services to grassroots communities will ensure that sustainability.
So break it down even further for us, in a practical sense, for the layman. Actually, what were you guys doing there? You're talking about governance structure, building up capacity, that type of thing. But what are you doing on an average day?
On an average day, would start quite early. There would be a number of briefings. We'd be working on key product that would be required in the headquarters at that time that would be distributed across the country to the regional commands. There are a number of programs that were being developed by the international community, by key funders such as USAID, the British Defence for International Aid, and they had a number of providers that were looking to build governance capacity within various provinces.
Was it dangerous? Or is that a silly question? Because we all know this is Afghanistan. We're talking about the Taliban, we're talking about bombs, we're talking about war. So obviously it was dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I was a staff officer in the headquarters in Kabul. But, I mean, there's a degree of risk there, but there's a degree of risk anywhere. We had very good training. We had very good equipment. We were constantly revising our standard operating procedures to mitigate any risk that was there.
How did you feel, Whetu, when Ollie was deployed overseas, knowing he was going to Afghanistan? We read things in the papers all the time. We see things on the TV. When he was deployed there, how were you feeling? What was going through your mind?
Initially, very apprehensive, but I think if you ask any wife or a partner of somebody that's in the Defence Force, regardless of where they go, they're all going to say the same thing. You're sending your loved one to a war zone, basically. So initially, yes, incredibly apprehensive, but we had done lots of talking and had talked about it. We knew the risk, but this is their job. This is what they do. This is why they joined the military in the first place.
Did you want him to go?
Yes. I think if I had have said no, I would have probably regretted it for a long time. More than happy for him to go. It was something that he needed to do. personally, and I think as a family we were very supportive of Ollie going away. Now we're incredibly proud of what he's achieved, and can go away again at some stage.
Ollie's, we'll talk about that a bit more too. Ollie's a volunteer.
Yes.
What would you feel like if he was in the army full time?
I'm not sure. I've only ever known Ollie, as a territorial full soldier or reservist. I don't know. I think it's quite different for them. We have friends who are regular force soldiers, officers, and they seem to be away a lot more than they're home, and I think that must be quite difficult for families, but you get used to it. I guess it just becomes part of the territory, really.
You're probably asked this question all the time, but why? Why would a person put their life on the block, if you like, knowing that there's so much risk involved in the job, volunteer for the job, knowing that anything could happen while you're over there? Why would you do that?
I think, Shane, as I was saying before, it's about service. It's about service of the country, and it's a profession that I enjoy tremendously, and as my colleagues do as well. So we spend a lot of time training, and it's, I think, really important. You can spend a lot of time training for a game, but if you actually don't, to use that analogy, if you don't get on the field sometime, what's the point of actually training?
But that's fine, though, if it's your game. A lot of people say, this isn't our game. There's two other teams on the playing field. What are we doing on that game or in the game?
Yeah, that's probably a question that's outside of my scope to be able to answer at this stage. I think from a personal preference, though, if you ask any soldier that deploys overseas, it's about service of one's country. I mean, it's probably contrite to say, but I still took a huge degree of pride of being able to wear a New Zealand flag on my shoulder every day whilst being overseas.
Were you able to keep in regular contact with Ollie?
Yes. We had already kind of established a communication plan. Text is fantastic. We would write letters. The kids and I would send emails.
So technology, great these days.
Technology is fantastic.
Was there any time when when the call didn't come? For whatever reason?
Not that I can recall. But I think I knew that if anything had happened or that somebody would have been in touch. So I don't think I ever really fell into the trap of, gosh, something's gone wrong, why hasn't he called?
You have three lovely children, 11, 9 and 5.
That's right.
If one of them turned around to you and said, I want to join up with the forces, how would you feel?
Fine.
Yep.
I mean, it's something that they've been brought up with. They've been around the army for as long as they can remember. So for them, I think it's probably natural progression, especially for the boys. I don't think our daughter's that interested, but the boys definitely, if they wanted to pursue that, then we'd definitely support them.
Are you looking at another deployment overseas?
Not at this stage, Shane, not for the immediate or medium-term future. As a reservist, going away, it's not only the 6-month deployment, it's also the 2 to 3 months pre-deployment training, and then it's the leave at the end, so it's quite a significant chunk out of family time and also work time. My employers were fantastic in their support for me going overseas, to support me going over, to give me time off to do the pre-deployment, and also holding my employment for me when I got back. But I'm very mindful of the disruption that it puts them under, and I wouldn't want to do that again immediately. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there, but thank you both very much for what you do and for coming in this morning and sharing your story with us all. Thank you both. You're welcome. Thanks, Shane.